Hello, it's me. I'm Hannah. I brought the Bible study guide, adult Bible study guide. This first quarter of the 23 title is Managing for the Master Till He Comes. It has 12 lessons, but today I'm gonna read the lesson 5, Dealing with Debt. Yeah. The read for this week's study, Deuteronomy 28, 1 to 12, Matthew 6, 24, 1 John 2, 15, Proverbs 22, 7, Proverbs 6, 1 through 5, Deuteronomy 15, 1 through 5. Memory text, the rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. Proverbs 22, 7. One definition of that is living today on what you expect to earn in the future. Today that seems to be a way of life, but it should not be the norm for Christians. The Bible discourages that. In the scriptures there are at least 26 references to that, and all are negative. The Bible does not say that it is a sin to borrow money, but it does talk about the open bad consequences of doing so. When considering financial obligations, poor counseled, render therefore to all their due, taxes to whom taxes are due, customs to whom customs, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor. Owe no one anything except to love one another. Romans 13, 7 and 8. Why is that an almost international scourge at every level, personal, corporate, and government? Every society has always had at least a small percentage who were in debt, but today a much larger portion of the people are in debt, and it's almost never to their benefit. This week we will consider the reasons for debt and how to deal with it. You may be debt-free, but you can share this valuable information with family and friends who could benefit from it. Sunday, the debt problems. Read Deuteronomy 28, 1 to 12. What is God's idea for his children regarding debt? How can they attain this idea? And though this context is very different from ours, what principles can we take away from it to apply to ourselves now? Studies show that there are three primary reasons that people get into financial difficulty. They are listed here in the order of greatest frequency. The first is ignorance. Many people, even the educated, are financially illiterate. Financially illiterate. They were simply never exposed to the biblical or even secular principles of money management. There is hope, however. This lesson will provide the simple outline of these principles and how to apply them. The second reason for financial difficulties is greed or selfishness. In response to advertising and personal desire, people simply live beyond their means. They aren't willing to live in, thrive, or wear what they can really afford. Many of these same people also fear that they are just too poor to tithe. As a consequence, they live their lives without God's promised wisdom and blessing. See Malachi 3:10, 11, Matthew 6:33. There's hope for these people as well, but it requires a change of heart and a spirit of contentment. The third reason people find themselves in financial difficulty is personal misfortune. They may have experienced a serious illness without adequate health insurance. They may have been abandoned by a spendthrift marriage partner. A natural disaster may have wiped out their possessions, or they may have been born and raised in ab- abject poverty. There is hope for these people too. Though their path is more difficult, their troubles can be overcome. Change may come with the support of Christian friends, the counsel and or assistance of godly counselors. Hard work coupled with a good education and the blessing and the providence of God. Whatever the reason, even if it's a person's own fault, that can be alleviated. However, those in that will need to make some changes in their lives, their spending, and their financial priorities. Read First Timothy 6 through 9. What is Paul saying here that all of us need to heed? What do these words mean to you? And in what ways can you better follow what the word is teaching us here? Monday, following godly. I'm so sorry, my nose. So, yesterday night I was so following godly counsel. We are material beings and we live in a material world, a world that at times can be very alluring. You'd have to be made out of steel and synthetic synthetic oil, not flesh and blood, not to fear at times the lure of material possessions and the desire for wealth. At one time or another, who hasn't fantasized fantasized about being rich or winning the lottery? Though we all face it, and there is nothing wrong in and of itself in working hard to earn a good living or even being wealthy. None of us has to succumb, succumb to the trap of making idols out of money, wealth, and the material possessions. We are promised divine power to stay faithful to what we know is right. This is important because the temptation of wealth and the material possessions had led to the ruin of many souls. Read Matthew 6:24 and 1 John 2:15, though expressed differently, was the common theme found in both of these scriptures. Unfortunately, the love of the world can be so strong that people will get into debt and in order that as they hope to satisfy that love. It never works. See Ecclesiastes 4:8. And because that is one of Satan's nests that he sets for souls, it just makes sense that God would like to see his children debt free. He has given us counsel through the Bible and the prophetic gift that will lead us to financial freedom. Read Psalm 50:14-15. What attitude should God's people live with? What does it mean to pay your vows? We enter into our church membership with praise and thanksgiving to our God who has created and redeemed us in point 9 of 13 in our baptismal vows. We were asked, do you believe in church organization? Is it your purpose to worship God and to support the church through your tithe and the offerings and by your personal effort and influence? As Seventh-day Adventists, we all said yes. So this text, Psalm 50, 14 and 15, is a promise to those who offer thanksgiving to God and are faithfully paying their vows. What do your choices tell you about how well you deal with the lure of the world? Why is working hard to earn a good living not necessarily the same thing as making an idol of wealth or money? How can we learn the difference? Tuesday, how to get out of debt. Read Proverbs 22:7. In what sense are we under bondage to the lender? What can we do to escape from this unfortunate phenomenon? If you are in debt, the following outline will help you begin a debt elimination process. The plan is simple. It has a premise and three steps. The premise is a commitment to God to be faithful in returning His holy tithes to access His wisdom and blessing. He is eager to bless those who obey Him. Step 1 is to declare a moratorium on additional debt. No more credit spending. If you don't borrow money, you can't get into debt. If you don't borrow any more money, you can't get further into debt. Step 2 is to make a covenant with God that from this point on, as He blesses, you will pay off your debts as quickly as possible. When God blesses you financially, use the money to reduce debt, not to purchase more things. This step is probably the most crucial. When most folks receive unexpected money, they simply spend it. Don't instead apply it to your debt reduction plan. Step 3 is the hands-on practical part. Make a list of all your debts from the largest to the smallest in descending order. For most families, the home mortgage is at the top of the list, and a credit card or personal debt is at the bottom. Begin by making at least the minimum payment due on each of your debts on a monthly basis. Next, double up or increase your payments in any way you can on the debt at the bottom of the list. You will be happily surprised how quickly you can eliminate that smallest debt. Then use the money that you were paying on the bottom debt to add to the basic payment on the next debt as you work your way up the list. As you eliminate your smaller high interest debts, you will free up a surprising amount of money to place on the next higher debts. God clearly doesn't want us in debt. Once the covenant is made, many families find that God blesses them in unexpected ways, and the debt is reduced faster than they had anticipated. By following these three simple steps, many families have become debt-free. You can too. By putting God first, you will receive His wisdom and blessing for managing what He has entrusted to you. Let your conduct be without covetousness. Be content with such things as you have. For He Himself has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Hebrews 13:5. How could applying these words greatly help people avoid getting into debt? Yeah, Wednesday. Because of sun, yeah, there are rainy day after sun. Sun is so brilliant shiny. So I wanna get the sun and get the vitamin D and the other vitamin make with the other vitamins. So though my nose dropping but inside there. Wednesday short and get rich quick schemes. The Bible is very clear that God does not want his children to become responsible for the debt obligations of others. In the book of Proverbs, the Lord has warned us against the surety, that is, co-signing or being guarantor for another person. Read Proverbs 6 1 through 5, Proverbs 17:18, and Proverbs 22:26. What is the message here? Surety usually occurs when a person with poor credit seeks a loan from a lending institution and does not qualify for the loan. The loan officer will tell the unqualified person that if he or she will get a friend with good credit to co-sign with him or her, then the bank will grant the loan and hold the co-signer responsible in the event of a default. Sometimes a fellow church member will come to you and ask you to co-sign. Your response should be, the Bible says, I should never do to co-sign, do never do that. Please understand that the Bible encourages us to be helper to those in need, but we should not become responsible for their debts. Parents are sometimes asked by teenagers to co-sign for the purchase of their first car, or all the adult children will ask parents to co-sign business for a business loan. The same answer applies. It is appropriate to help others if there is a real need, but do not become surety for the deaths of others. Studies show that 75% of those who co-signed end up making the payments. Read Proverbs 28:20 and 1 Timothy 6:9-10. What's the warning here? Get rich quick schemes are another financial trap. They are almost guaranteed to lead to financial ruin for those who get caught up in hurt emotionally and financially. An additional tragedy with this devious plans is that in many cases individuals have had to borrow money to become involved in them in the first place. Many lives and the families have been ruined by get-rich-quick schemes that end up enriching only the con artists who devise them at the expense of those who fall into their trap. When a friend or even a loved one tries to pull you into one of these schemes, run. Don't walk, run as fast as you can. Thursday, Tom Remis and the borrowing points. Read Deuteronomy 15 1 through 5. What did the Lord require of his people as revealed in these verses? In harmony with other 7-year statutes, Exodus 21 2, Leviticus 25 3 4. Not only were the slaves or servants and the land regulated, but also the lenders, because the lenders did not want to forgive any debts. The longest anyone could be in debt was 7 years. Whatever else we can take from these verses, they do show that the Lord cares about these kinds of financial issues, especially when at the time they concern the fellow Israelites. These verses also show that the Lord acknowledged the reality of that no matter how bad it generally was, he also emphasized that it was to be avoided as much as possible. Today, by contrast, people in many parts of the world have loans for 30 and 40 years for home purchases. It seemed that one reason houses cost so much is that credit is available to provide loans to purchase them. Meanwhile, many people, parents and students, wonder about borrowing money for an education. As a rule, getting a college degree will enhance a person's income capability for the rest of his or her life. Some people might have to borrow some money to pay for their education, but keep in mind these factors. You have to pay it back with interest. Try to get grants and scholarships that you can qualify for. Work and save all you can for school. Take only courses that will lead to a job. Have parents help. In Bible times, parents gave their children farmland so that they could make a living. Today, that inheritance should likely be an education so that they can become independent adults. In an ideal world, there would be no borrowing and no debt. But because we don't live in an ideal world, there might be times when it is necessary to borrow. Just make sure that you have the best deal possible and the best interest rate available. Then borrow the very minimum that you need and pay it off as quickly as possible to save on interest costs. In principle, however, to whatever degree humanly possible, we should seek to avoid the debt and by following biblical financial principles in our everyday lives. We can go a long way toward avoiding unnecessary debt and the terrible strain it can put on us and our families. If you have lent people money, how honest and fair and kind are you in your dealings with them? How would you fare before God when you have to answer for those dealings? See Ecclesiastes 12:14. Yeah, after almost 20 minutes, my whole body is so muscle pain just release and my nose is a little bit good. I feel so the sunshine is really good for the sick pain body. So yeah, further thought, the three-step process of debt elimination is actually found on one page of Ellen G. White's writings. Emphasis has been added to highlight the points. Determined be determined never to incur another debt. Deny yourself 1,000 things rather than run in debt. This has been the curse of your life, getting into debt. Avoid it as you would the smallpox. Avoid it, avoid it as you would the smallpox. Make a solemn covenant with God that by His blessing you will pay your debts and then owe no man anything. If you live on porridge, 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 and bread. Do not falter, be discouraged, or turn back. Deny your taste, deny the indulgence of appetite. Save your pens and pay your debts. Walk them off as fast as possible. When you can stand forth a free man again, owing no man anything, you will have achieved a great victory. Counsels on Stewardship, page 257. If you need additional help to become debt-free, try these points. Establish a budget. Make a simple budget by keeping a record of all your income and expense purchases over a period of these months. Many are surprised to learn how much money they spend on unnecessary items. Destroy credit cards. Credit cards are one of the major causes of family indebtedness. They are so easy to use and so hard to pay off. If you find that you aren't paying off the cards in total each month, or that you are using them to purchase items that you would not otherwise have bought, you should destroy your credit cards before they destroy your marriage or both. Begin economy measures. Sometimes we aren't aware of how much we would save on our monthly expenses just by being careful about some of the small things that we purchase. They quickly add up. Discussion questions. 1. The amount of debt that many nations as well as individuals have taken upon themselves is staggering. What has been your own experience with debt and the problems that debt has created for you or others? 2. What could your local church do to help members learn to manage debt or financial issues in general? 3. What are some Bible promises that you can claim to help protect yourself from the lure of the world and the financial dangers greediness can pose to us? Yeah, thank you. The Inside Story, Troubled Boy to Church Elder by Sharon Nehiloff. Edmund was a troubled child in Mujus, Malawi. He refused to obey his parents, teachers, or any other adult. At school, he hit the other boys and even the teachers. He gained such a fearful reputation that children and adults alike were scared of him. One day, Edmund decided that it would be fun to disrupt the Pathfinder Club. He took his unruly friends to Chasefo Seventh-day Adventist Church, and they mocked the marching and the singing Pathfinders. Edmund enjoyed seeing the Pathfinders react, so he and his friends returned week after week. But as the weeks passed, Edmund became interested in Pathfinder activities. He wanted to know more about what the children were doing and what they believed. When the church organized evangelistic meetings at Muju Stadium, Mujuchu Stadium, he decided to go, but he did not tell his friends for fear that they would laugh at him. He also did not tell his parents, who belonged to another Christian denomination, because he worried that they might punish him. At the meetings, Edmund fell in love with the God of heaven and the Lord of the Seventh-day Adventist Sabbath, even though he was afraid that the Adventist children and adults whom he had mistreated so terribly would reject him. He summoned up the courage and gave his heart to Jesus in baptism. His parents found out about the baptism 4 months later. 전기장판 좀 갖고 가야 할까? 전기장판. And they immediately, 경기가 춥대. And they immediately disowned. 안 그러면 저기 올마트에 가서 사든가. 2개만 사. 애들 다 춥대. They immediately disowned. 올마 안 가려면 일단은 당신 거라도 갖다 줘야지. Disowned the boy. Edmund stayed in the homes of church members. And they taught him more about the Bible until he became well versed in its teachings. He also worked. 지금 갈 수 있으니까 올마 가서 사면 되지. He also worked odd jobs to pay required fees so he could stay in school. 3 years passed. Edmund's parents saw that he was faithful to God. They saw that he had become a new creature in Christ, and they asked him to return home. 거기에다가 냄비에다가 물을 반 이상 붓고 콩나물하고 두부 넣어서 파 넣어가지고 저기 간 맞춰서 먹으라고 해요. Christ, and they asked him to 두부 2개 정도는 넣어야 될 거야. 걔네들 식구를 먹으려면. Today, Edmund Terry is married to an Adventist wife, and they have 2 sons. He also serves as an elder at the Chechupu Seventh-day Adventist Church, the place where he used to torment the. 밤에 당신도 해봤지만은 먼지 나잖아. Pathfinders. He says that only God could have transformed the troublous schoolboy into a church elder. Never look down on children, no matter how bad behaved they may be, he said. Thank you for your 2021 13th Sabbath offering that is helping to construct a community outreach and leadership development center on the Muchuchu campus of Malawi Adventist University. So more boys and girls, men and women can learn and about the transforming power of Jesus in Edmund's hometown and beyond in the Southern Africa, Indian Ocean Division. This quarter's offering will support 6 more educational projects in the neighboring East Central Africa Division. Yeah, thank you. It's work. The sun shines on my body. Thank you. Let's Lord's Prayer. Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Yeah. Thank you very much.